Hello Wargamers and welcome to another Wargame Red Dragon video with me, Bubblebox, and today we're going to have a look at a deck sent in by CrazyGary. Eastern Bloc Motorised today. I wanted to do a Red 4 deck because I haven't done a Red 4 deck for a long time, and the good thing is that Gary actually tells me what he's going to be using this deck for, which is going to be a real help. Go to Urban Warfare, Eastern Bloc Motorised, initial land grabs with follow-up and reinforcement. So it's kind of what you would expect a motorized deck to be used for. And if you're not familiar with motorized decks, basically motorized decks, you get extra recon, you get extra infantry, and you can, if you want, even get extra vehicles at the expense of some of the other units, of course, including, probably most importantly, you do get a real downgrade in the tank department. So without further ado, let's move in and have a look at CrazyGary's logistics. I think a fob definitely needed in this deck first of all. And then for his command, he's gone for the VSOT or the VSOT 64A. I think this is a really nice choice. Hasn't got a weapon, but you don't need a weapon. But it's got really nice autonomy and fuel consumption, so it can get around the map, and it's even amphibious. So really nice. Alternatives, not a critique, but alternatives, you could have gone for the UAZs, of course, if you want something a little bit cheaper, and if you want something maybe a little bit more, well, I don't know, it's not really more flexible. If you want something a bit of another alternative would have been to go for the good old infantry command that many people take, maybe in one of the, in the Scott 2A or something. Apart from that, we've got some logistics trucks, and he's gone for a set of Kolos and a set of these guys from the East German deck. They're both exactly the same truck, which is fine. Personally, I would have gone for a set of MI8s because, you know me, I like flexibility in my decks and being able to adapt to different things. So I would have gone for an MI8 instead of one of these sets of trucks. And also, a very, very small point is I would have gone for the two sets. If I got two sets of trucks, I would have gone for two sets of VLKVs rather than the Kolosses. And the only reason for that is, and this won't work against really good players, but against some average players perhaps that don't play the game as much and don't know all the unit names. Most people know what a Kolos is, but not many people know what a VLKV T815 is on the map. So it might confuse them just a little bit and give you a very, very slight advantage. A minor point, but worth mentioning. Moving on to the infantry tab, and the infantry tab, there's a lot of infantry actually, so it can be quite confusing for players when they're trying to do a motorized deck to pick which infantry to use, and there's no right and there's no wrong answer, but there's a few you definitely want in, and one of them I think he has got in, and that is the Commandoses. Commandoses, still one of the best infantry units in the game, in my opinion. Yes, they're expensive at 35 points. If you're bringing them in a 3 stack, it can be like, or you know, some people bring them in 4 stacks, I guess. Most people, though, I would advise bringing them in 2 stacks. But yeah, really potent, got really nice weapons all round, and they're 15-man squads, so they are highly survivable, or more highly survivable than many of the other infantry units. And you definitely want some, if you're paying that amount of dosh for your infantry, you're going to be wanting them to be survivable. He's bought these guys in, let's get rid of that real quick, in the Scott 2AP, which I think is absolutely fine. It's kind of the slight upgrade of the 2AM. Slightly better, isn't it? Yeah, slightly better range, I think. Yeah, on the against helicopters. Could have gone for the down range against helicopters, but the Malyutkas for the same price. But I think that's perfectly fine. Now the next set of commandos, and you definitely want to go for these as well, is the LSTRs. The LSTRs he's bought in the SPW 80s, which is again a good choice, I think. Yeah, the upgraded SPWs, very nice. The only other ones that might catch people's eyes, but which I wouldn't recommend if you can get the LSTRs. Don't bother with the FJBs, because the weapon, even though they're 10 points more, the weapons on the LSTRs are so much better than on the FJBs, and that Igla is an immensely powerful man-pad weapon. So yeah, and oh yes, the FJ, yeah, I've done that. The SPW8 is good. Now the choice for your line infantry or your other infantry can be quite difficult in this deck, because as I say, there's quite a lot to choose from, and some people might might prefer a cheaper, more spammy type of deck, but certainly CrazyGary's gone for the more elite type of deck for this particular deck for his land grab. So he's gone for azyglRFSRylMpUKzEjEA and Motorised. I really like the Motorised. They're one of the old favourites. I still like to get them. He's also got the azyglRFSRylMpUKzEjEA as well, which is absolutely fine. Motorised 90s, yeah, okay, and the azyglRFSRylMpUKzEjEA. They're both quite similar, but one again is a 15-man squad and one's a 10-man squad. The 15-man squad costing a little bit more. Weapons-wise, they're not too dissimilar, really. The Motorised Knights, he's certainly got a better ATGM weapon. But the azyglRFSRylMpUKzEjEA, again, as I say, 15 strength. They're both shock trained though, so he has gone for quite high level infantry. He hasn't got any really cheap infantry in the deck. If you wanted to go for cheap infantry, there are plenty to choose from. Oh, by the way, what's he bought them in? He's bought them in SPW70s and SPW80s. He's gone for the SPW80s for the Motorised, and he's gone for the SPW70s for the azyglRFSRylMpUKzEjEA, only because he ran out of SPW80s, I think. So that's the only reason for that slight downgrade there. Because there is a limit in the amount of armor cards you can get for each type, of course. Yeah, I wouldn't go for any of the cheaper infantries. There's like the Motorised, I think, in here somewhere, and some others, but yeah, they're just not, they just wouldn't stand up. If something like a Motorised came up against Motorised and azyglRFSRylMpUKzEjEA and Commandoses, they're just going to last 2 seconds. So yeah, I like his choices. There's also some really cheap 5-point infantry in this deck somewhere. I can't find them at the moment for some reason. There they are, the reservists, the Reservists. They only cost 5 points, I guess, if you want something really spammy. But what I hate about reserve units is the ones you have to get where the vehicle costs 10 points and the actual units only cost 5 and the vehicle's terrible. So I would never get them. So I like his choices in this deck so far. He's got some fire supports, and he's gone for the granular Mets, which have a nice grenade launcher. Again, I've got no problem with this either. I know this is meant to be a critique, but I've not found too much to critique yet. Maybe later. But the granular Mets going to support his other infantry really, really well with this grenade launcher. Bought them in the OTC 64C, which, yeah, got a little bit of a Malyutka going on there. Definitely get that because it's kind of a free gun. You can get the OT 64A, but you might as well go for the OT 64C because it's pretty much free because they're the same price, and you get a Malyutka for your troubles as well. So yeah, that's quite a nice little weapon. I don't normally go for these kind of support units because they're a bit squishy with just 5-man squads up in the front line, but yeah, if he's able to micro these quite well, they'll support his other units very well. Now, the other thing he's got is 2 sets of man pads, and for me that might be a little bit of overkill, and I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you which one I'd get rid of. He's gone for the PPZR Groms and the azyglA ones. And yeah, the PPZR Groms, really nice man pads with a very nice range, accuracy, and a good HE power of 4. The azyglAs aren't too shabby at all. They're 5 points less. They've got slightly less range against helicopters and choppers, less accuracy, but they've still got an HE power of 4. They're not terrible, but personally, I'd just stick to one set. The best one's the 20-point Groms, personally. What would I get instead of the azyglAs? I'm not really sure. Maybe I would go for some more line infantry in this deck because he might be a little bit restricted if it's a long game and having enough infantry in this particular deck. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about that, really. Let's move on to support. Now, he's only got 4 of his possible 5 slots filled for his support, and he's got a lot of guns. He's got a lot of guns. He's gone for the Sopples and the Strop 2s. Now, the Strop 2s, let's have a look at those first of all. They've got 2 weapons. 2 nice weapons, which these are very, very good against helicopters. How many do you get? You only get 4. Oh, he's got the 6 trained, so you get 6 of these guys as well. And yeah, they're good. They're a very good unit for 60 points against helicopters, and they can move around the map. They're fast, and they've also, importantly, on one of their weapons, the azyglA, have got a stabilizer so can fire on the move as well. Now, as well as the Strop 2s, he's also gone for Soppels, which is kind of have the same role for me a little bit. They're a lot less, but they do still have those very good groms, which is infantry have, so still got the good range against very good range against helicopters. And then he's also gone for these guys here, which are basically Strellas, or they're given the PLRK or whatever that is, but they're basically Strellas and are good against helicopters as well. So a little bit of overkill on the guns here, although these guys are missiles, has to be said, but a bit of overkill from the anti-helicopter weapons, should we say. And I would probably get rid of these Strellas maybe, and get a proper anti-aircraft weapon, because at the moment we ain't got nothing that can really shoot at aircraft from range. He's also gone for, we'll have a look at that in a second, he's also gone for some mortars, which is okay, they can fire smoke, but he has gone for them vetted up for some reason. There might be a reason for getting them vetted up, if you can let me know in the comments below. But for me, if you've got mortars, just get them trained and get more of them, because the accuracy is pretty damn good anyway. They don't have to be completely pinpoint, and you might want to use these things for smoke. And if you use them for smoke, you don't want them to have pinpoint accuracy. So that's my thoughts on those. Now, what alternatives? Now, I would definitely go for some proper anti-aircraft, at least one. Get rid of maybe these Strellas or the Strela lookalikes, and go for, let's have a look at what's available here. So yeah, I think we've got some, these Nuas are amazing. They are 90 points, so they are expensive. They are radar guided, but they are really good against aircraft, and they've got a very long range, so you can leave them behind. So I would definitely swap out the Strellas for a set of the Nuas. There are other anti-aircraft weapons. You've got the bombs and the similar and these things, which are pretty much exactly the same as the bombs down here as well, with slightly less, a range of 3,500. And these are, if you want something that costs a little bit less, then these only cost 65, as opposed to the Nuas, which cost 90. But I love the look of these things. They've got I just love them. I think they look amazing. As far as the artillery is concerned, instead of maybe going for the mortars or maybe trying to make some room for some extra artillery, I think it's worth getting a set of rocket artillery, and I'll show you which ones and I'll tell you why. Now, the ones that I would get are the RM70s, a set of the RM70s, because they give you flexibility in your deck. They can provide HE support and stun infantry if you're trying to move into infantry, or if infantry is trying to attack your position with this particular deck. But they also now fire smoke, so you can fire smoke with these. You don't need the mortars now to fire smoke. You can fire them with your rocket artillery, and they give a really huge spread of smoke as well. So I'd probably get a set of the RM70s, maybe in place of the mortars, or maybe in that extra fifth slot, with the Strellas being taken over by the Nuas. Tanks is problematic in this deck. It's a motorized deck, and the tanks aren't great. He's basically just gone for 3 of the best tanks that he could get, and he's got them vetted up, which is probably exactly what I would do. So nothing too amazing. They're kind of medium tanks. They've got okay guns. They're not going to do all that well at range. In fact, they're not going to do very well at all at range against the big super heavies that may be coming towards them. And at the moment, we haven't really got anything for distance fighting against tanks, and we're going to have to look at that when we come to the aircraft tab. Close combat fighting, this deck is amazing so far. Fighting big super heavies, not so good at the moment. So not too much to say about the tanks. I mean, it is what it is. Reconnaissance, though, is a really important section in this deck, and you're going to be wanting to fill your reconnaissance section up when you're doing your motorized deck. First of all, we've got the Salamandra, so we'll have a look at the helicopters that are available first. I like the Salamandras. The biggest problem is they've only got 4 missiles, and they do fire them off fairly fast, which is kind of good, but then they do kind of run out quite quickly. They've got a little rocket pod, which is not too efficient, but the Yeah, I do like these with the COCOM missiles. I do say a lot you don't need weapons on your recon, but sometimes on your choppers, especially if they've got long range like these have at 2,800 meters, they can be useful, although possibly expensive in a 1v1 or a 2v2 conquest at 80 points. And if you want something a bit cheaper, you could go for the MI2s. They still do have very good optics. The downside is, and they are very cheap, the downside is that they're quite slow and they're quite squishy with a strength of just 4, but they do only cost 40 points. Now he's only got one vehicle and he's gone for this guy. Now personally I'm not too... Oh, let's get them back up real quick. Vehicles. I'm not too au fait with all the vehicles in this type of deck. This one looks perfectly adequate. It's got a little gun, which is fine, and it can shoot at helicopters and ground targets. Whether you want your recon to be doing that, I don't know, but this would act actually as a good spotter for the rest of your units and a good fire support unit for your infantry in those hard fought places as well. And it also can fire a little bit of AP power. Of course, one that most people will get in their deck as well, perhaps in place of one of these other infantry slots, would be the BRDM. That might be worth having. It's half the price of that vehicle. Its weapons nowhere near as good, but it's great. It's really fast. It can shoot at infantry quite well. It acts as good fire support, and it can shoot at helicopters, and it's even got an AP power of 1. It's half the price. It's half the weapon, but it's still a very, very nice unit, the BRDM2. Most people, I think, would probably argue that that should go in this deck somewhere, as well as that BPVZ. He has got some other infantry, basic infantry, before we look at the commando type infantry, and those are these special whatever that is. So let's get the infantry up real quick if we can. Infantry, there we go. And these are pretty nice infantry in their own right, and you see these are actually shock trained. They're only 20 points. They're shock trained, can certainly fight in the towns on their own, you know. They're a good infantry unit on their own. Basically, they've got close quarters combat machine gun. He's brought them in the SPW70s. Again, where are they? Let's have a look at them real quick. Down here, the SPW70s. Yep, can't get SPW80s. He's run out of those. So again, he's got the SPW70s, which is absolutely fine, I think. Yeah. Apart from that, we have then got the commando type units. So let's get special forces up. There we go. And there's a lot to choose from. The Formosa are another really, really good infantry set of infantry units for the Polish. And I'll definitely put these in my deck as my commando recon units. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about these really. They're elite trained, they're really fast, well, they're quite fast across the ground. They've got a strength of 10, they've got some really nice weapons, and he's brought them in the Scott 2s. I might have gone actually for the Scott 2 AMs personally, because the Scott 2s, you just get a machine gun, which I find really difficult to use these machine guns unless you're very good at microing to be able to use these as fire support. But yeah, the Scott 2As, they've got a nice little gun, but the Scott 2 AMs, which still only cost an extra 15, you also get a Malyutka and the same gun as the Scott 2A. So I would have got these probably in the Scott 2 AMs, those Formosas. And he's actually got 2 sets of Formosas in the Scott 2s. I would have got 2 sets in the 2 AMs personally. It would have been 5 points extra, but I think for a better gun and a Malyutka, I think it's probably worth it. I hope I'm looking at that correctly. Then he's got some Special whatever that is, which are again a nice infantry recon squad. Probably not quite as good as the Formosas, but still pretty damn good. Personally, I would probably just gone for the Formosas. You get 8 of them, and I would have got them, of course, in the upgraded truck. And I would have probably would have dumped these guys and gone for the BRDM2 and maybe chosen one other, maybe vehicle recon unit, or maybe the cheaper chopper and have the cheaper chopper and the Salamandra in my deck for flexibility. Vehicles pretty restricted, really. Yeah, I probably would have gone for the Brom 2s. It might be the only thing I got for this deck, actually, in the Vehicles tab. The best ATGM, and yeah, and so far the only thing that can really stop or slow down any tank push that the enemy decided to do out in the open that you might need to hold back, apart from the salamanders, of course. He's also gone for some of these things. They don't look amazing to me. They've got a decent AP power, poor actually, only 4 missiles. They're only 35 points, I guess. But yeah, I don't know why these are in the deck really. The tanks can kind of do the same job that these can do, I guess. But I guess he's gone for cheapness. Now there is some anti-air units in here you could put in. We've got these things, these ZSUs, which aren't the best. They kind of fire intermittently, but they have got some armor, and if you need a bit of extra anti-air in your deck, you could put these in the vehicle tab, because they're only going to cost you 1 point, and they can catch the enemy off if you put these hide these in tree lines and things, and they fly aircraft or helicopters over there. They can get some shots off, although machine guns can do that job as well. Helicopter wise, and this is one of the best units, first of all, in the Eastern Bloc deck. It's the DHS MI-24P, and it's a brilliant unit. Always get these if you get an Eastern Bloc deck, and they are available in this deck, so you've got to get them. And this is the reason why this middle weapon here, the R60M Molayana, I don't know how to pronounce that, but it can fire at aircraft at 3,150 meters. And especially with the lack of anti-aircraft weapons he's got in this deck at the moment, these are going to be very, very useful for him. And they can shoot at helicopters very efficiently as well. They do only have 4 missiles, but I really like these weapons. They've got the Kokons as well, which are quite nice, and they've got a stabilizer so they can fire on the move, but only 4 again, but very, very nice weapon. And they've got a decent little gun as well for fire support. They're very fast as well at 330, and they're survivable with 10 hit points as well. He's also got the Sokols, which is fine. Anti-helicopter really, rather than anti anything else helicopter, certainly. It's got a little rocket pod that you can use as a secondary kind of weapon as well, so that's fine. I'd definitely get them. If you want something a bit more spammy, you can take one of the cheaper choppers. If you want something spammy that you can bring out, something cheap and spammy, you can get some of those maybe. And the aircraft tab, I feel, is going to be fairly important in this game. We've got a couple of air superiority fighters. These are the best air superiority fighters in this deck. I think the 150 point MiG-29 13S. There is a Polish variant of this. Don't know if I can find it. Where is it? It's basically exactly the same aircraft. There it is. Exactly the same aircraft, except the East German variant's got fire and forget Vimpels, and the Polish variant has got just the normal semi-active. So the upgraded one is going to be a lot easier to use basically, and more survivable. But apart from that, there's not a lot in them. Yeah, go for the fire and forget ones. They're just easy to use, aren't they? Apart from that, we've got ourselves the Su-22M4P seed missile launcher. Kind of speaks for itself. Not over expensive at 90 points. Not the best seed aircraft in the game, but it's I guess it's adequate. It's quite slow. It's got an ECM of 30. It's adequate. It's only got 2 missiles. Then at last we have something that can shoot down the super heavies. It's the Su-22M4 30. A nice anti-tank weapon. Still only 750 kilometers per hour, which I don't like, and an ECM of only 720. So survivability is going to be a bit difficult if they've got a if you're not aware of the AA they might have. It's got a little secondary weapon there to protect itself as well. A little missile for close combat fighting. But yeah, we've got an anti-tank plane at last for taking down at least 2 super heavies, because you've only got 2 of these. Let's just put it like that. Then we've got the MiG-25 RBF. So this is your bomber. This is your main bomber. It's probably the best bomber as well in this particular deck. Yeah, 8 500 kilogram bombs. Pretty immense weapon. Quite expensive. Good speed in ECM though, so fairly survivable. But of course this is going to have to fly over its target to drop its bomb, so just be aware of that as well. Finally, he's gone for this little thing, the MiG-21 BIS. I'm not sure what role he's got in mind for this. This is kind of, it's got fire and forget, but it's kind of a dogfighter more than anything else because you need to be up close to use it. Can't really use it that well against helicopters because it's too fast and it can't get its missiles off quick enough. So I'm not sure what, maybe he can write in the comments what he's got in mind for this one. But maybe you could swap this one out for something, maybe some more air superiority, although those two air superiority are adequate. I don't know what else there is in the anti-tank role. Let's have a quick look. Maybe you could swap this out for another anti-tank plane. We have got the Su-25K, which I find quite difficult to use. I guess you could swap it out for that boy. Yeah. Okay, anyway, nothing in the naval tab, of course, but that is it. That is my deck review for CrazyGary's Eastern Bloc Motorised deck. Please do put in the comments below what you think about this deck. If there's anything you think I've missed or got wrong, I've not got a problem. Just state it in the comments below. Thanks to CrazyGary for sending this one in. Thank you all for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.